So, the Green Lantern movie came out. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen this, you probably shouldn't watch anymore. Because I'm gonna spoil a few things. If you follow my series, you probably saw my first reaction video when I came out of Green Lantern. So we just got a Green Lantern. That wasn't good. And I still kind of stand by that. That movie's not very good. Let me start out by saying that while I'm not a big fan of Green Lantern, I don't dislike it. I probably know as much about Green Lantern as I did about Thor. I do work in a comic store, SuperflyComicsandGames.com, cheap plug. So I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on Green Lantern and what it is and isn't supposed to do. That said, the movie just wasn't that good. Well, let's start off with the main reason that people might think that I don't like this movie, and it's Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds, I'll say I was a tad trepidatious about it. I'm not going to say that I wasn't worried about him being Hal Jordan. But after seeing it, Ryan Reynolds was surprisingly good as Hal Jordan. I will say that, like a lot of actors who get typecast into a certain kind of role, i.e. Michael Cera, you can only do as much as the writing lets you. So Ryan Reynolds was as good as what was written for him. He hit all those, he hit all his marks the way that you're supposed to. But it was just written badly. I get that Hal Jordan is kind of a smartass and he's kind of full of himself and this, that, and the other, but he's not. Ryan Reynolds doesn't make him a very likable character in this movie. Like, even by generic superhero standards, when in the middle of the second act, when he realizes that, hey, he's got power inside of him, he can really, really overcome fear, and even after that, he just didn't seem like such a likable character. I don't feel like this is any fault of Ryan Reynolds. I feel like he tried as hard as he could with what they gave him, and he really can hit that concerned face, like he's really worried about the fear inside of him. I get that. That was actually well played. I'm not even going to pretend. I guess my main issue with it is the fact that the way it was written is written for people who don't understand subtlety, i.e. American moviegoers. I mean, we're not really highbrow here in America and whatnot, but as somebody who is a generally smart person, and someone who generally knows what goes on in the Green Lantern universe, I don't feel like they really needed to beat me over the head with Hal Jordan needs to overcome his fear because this is a huge central part of this story. I swear to God, if we had another moment or montage of Hal Jordan questioning whether he can get over his irrational fears, I don't exactly know what I would have done. Like, by the fifth time, it was just like, yeah, we get it. He's scared. Like, any reasonable person could have gotten that from, seeing his dad blow up. That might be just playing to the audience. So let's go to the next major thing in it. Oa. Oa looked pretty good. It didn't look nearly as good as I feel like it should have, but what you gonna do? I feel like you didn't spend enough time in Oa. You kind of you were in about 3 central places. You were there when Hal Jordan woke up there. You were flying around. You were at the training ground where Kilowog is beating Hal Jordan in the face, which was pretty good. And then you were you were in front of the Immortals. And that was kind of it. And, you got your big vista shot of all the Green Lanterns. Because, as far as I know, they were sitting in that crater the whole movie. Because it's not like they did anything else, really. Other than a few of them were fighting Parallax. And that was kind of it. it's kind of funny, actually, having watched Green Lantern, thinking back to when they showed the 4 minutes of footage at Comic-Con, and kind of slipped in. They weren't really done with the movie about a month and a half before it was coming out. I'm not really sure what they were doing. Maybe it was animating all the Green Lanterns that they didn't actually use. The Superfly crew, of course, we saw it in 3D, and the 3D wasn't very impressive. I will admit that I've only seen one 3D movie, and that was Thor, and that's a pretty good movie to start out watching 3D, because they did everything pretty much right without any of the cheesy stuff that you would see in 3D movies in Thor. What they did in Green Lantern, I'm not really sure why it took them so long to make to put the CGI stuff together, because they did pretty much every cliche 3D thing you could do. They had Hal Jordan flying straight at the screen. They had stuff randomly popping up in your, in front of you as you're looking, as your focus is on something far away. It was, again, I feel like it could have been used a lot better. It's 3D, and for a big movie like Green Lantern, for an epic movie like Green Lantern, you really needed to use that to show the kind of vastness of Oa and the vastness of space, and they didn't really do it. As much as the beef I had with Thor and 3D basically being to show Chris Hemsworth's huge arms, which, by the way, holy shit, that guy's huge. I feel like it could have been used a lot. It could have been used a lot more. I don't know. It could have been used a lot better, I'll say. How about that? Let's get to the acting. Carol Ferris. I get the world we're in. We're in the world of Megan Fox, where all you have to really do is hit your lines, look pretty, and not trip over something while you're chewing gum. That said, oh man, towards the middle of the movie, I'm like, why is he even bothering? She's so not interesting. Hector Hammond was played fairly well in the way that they made him out to be a pretty typical supervillain. Snivelly and whiny, but he has a little bit of power, and he has this screechy, weird laugh. By the way, shout-outs to whoever made that guy look like the guy in the Aphex Twin video. By far, the most interesting character in the movie was, of course, Sinestro. But even I had problems with that, where they did a really, really good job of making Sinestro as a kind of, not really a sinister good guy, but a very stoic and very serious good guy. He's really about doing the right thing. He's really about, protecting Oa, and he's really about, the Green Lantern Corps, and he's very trepidatious about Hal Jordan when he shows up. I like that he kind of gave him the business a little bit, for having the ring. And because it made a good setup for Hal Jordan to get over doubting himself and become ultimately the Green Lantern that he needed to be. That said, I'm not really sure about the third act, where Sinestro's coming up with a plan for making the yellow ring. The one thing that bugged me about Sinestro was that they had the big scene where they're in front of the Immortals, and Hal Jordan is talking to the Immortals about overcoming their fear. Which, by the way, that's a very good look, having humans as, in the movie, one of the youngest species in the universe, telling immortal beings to get over being scared. But I like how they went through this whole big thing. Hal Jordan saying, you can't use this ring, you can't use the power of fear against fear because you can't overcome it. And Sinestro looks kind of trepidatious. He looks kind of like, he looks like he's kind of taking it seriously, but it's still his plan, and he's, he almost looks impressed by Hal Jordan saying, I'll take this thing on alone. That said, after the credits, Sinestro just willy-nilly puts the ring on and becomes the Yellow Lantern. I don't understand how you make it such a big deal about how fear is this uncontrollable thing, and you can't fight fear with fear, And even having Sinestro play it up like he kind of sees the point or understands, you know, in your last scene, you just see him go, you know what? I'm gonna put this ring on and see what happens. That's the only thing that bugged me about Sinestro. Otherwise, Mark Strong, amazing playing him. I'm very interested in seeing him again. Big surprise to me, because I don't read spoilers, that Angela Bassett was in this. And unfortunately, she got beat up like she was in the Ike Turner movie, but otherwise, it's good seeing her. I'm happy she's working. Tim Robbins was in this as well for a minute. I mean, everybody else was pretty decent. I mean, Abin Sur, Kilowog, Tomare, they were cool for the couple minutes that they were in it. They were really just bit players. And I get that this is Hal Jordan's story, but it seems like they could have interacted with the core a little bit more. That's just me, I guess. I guess overall my problem is that this didn't seem like a Green Lantern movie. It just seemed like a generic superhero movie that they painted green. Like, the whole thing where, you know, they had to restate the plot of the movie so many times. I'm just like, yeah, I get it. Hal Jordan's scared of stuff. There was kind of the issue with me with it being a little bro. Where it's like, where Hal Jordan's in his apartment and he's with his best friend and he's like, dude, check this out. I'm totally Green Lantern. Yeah, this is pretty awesome, right? And it's just, I don't know. That kind of just, it didn't really get me to go, wow, that was awesome. And there was a lot of moments like that. And again, maybe it's just me being overly sensitive, and maybe it's just I don't go for maybe it's just I don't go for how they make movies now for an American audience. I get that those people are there, and I'm sure that kind of stuff is going to work for them, but not me so much. Overall, it's just kind of disappointing, because this was the first DC movie that, you know, that had a character that wasn't Batman or Superman on a pretty big level, and it just kind of fell over. You know, it wasn't epic, it wasn't huge, it didn't feel huge, it didn't make me, it didn't give me a rush where I was like, man, I gotta go check some more Green Lantern stuff out. I will give a big shout out to DC for actually having ads for the Green Lantern comics and trades at the end of the movie. That was kind of amazing. And it's more than Marvel has ever done. Marvel just kind of goes, yeah, you know our characters, buy our shit, nerds. But that, at the very least, was a good look, and it's a good attempt. As far as I've seen, DC has done a really good job at trying to get people to read the comics and not just go see the movies of these characters. And that's something worth mentioning as a positive. Overall, Green Lantern was, this would have been maybe a little bit better if it was just generic superhero movie instead of the Green Lantern movie. I'm friends with Green Lantern fans, like lifelong Green Lantern fans, and for the most part, it kind of feels like they don't want to completely write this off. It's definitely not good, but still it's a Green Lantern movie, and that's going to be good enough for a lot of people, I guess. I feel like a lot of people are going to go to the mat for this because it's the Green Lantern movie, and Green Lantern's their thing. I'm friends with people who are lifelong Green Lantern fans. Shout out to King Travis, by the way. I feel like a lot of people are just going to give this as much leeway as they possibly can to make it okay for them. I saw a lot of people online saying, hey, it was better than First Class, which saying that a bad movie is better than a movie that was worse doesn't really make that movie better. It just makes both of them bad movies. Like I said on Twitter, JFX316, by the way, if you want to follow me, that at the very least, there'll be 4 superhero movies in the summer of 2011. And that is good. regardless of how well they do. First Class did okay, despite being a mediocre movie at best. Thor was pretty awesome and did pretty awesome. Green Lantern was a little south of It'll probably do okay. And Captain America is probably going to destroy Earth when it comes out. Because they'd have to work really, really hard to fuck that movie up, as good as it looks in the trailers. Oh, by the way, every trailer you saw of Green Lantern, that was basically 30 minutes of the movie. So, yeah. Try not to do that too much, or maybe not have so many trailers next time. Overall, I would say to say I'm disappointed in this is maybe overstating it a little bit. It's disappointing that, you know, a character like Green Lantern goes out like this. I joked coming out of the theater that I give this movie a sequel, and then the movie after that, they will totally retcon this movie, you know, completely. And be like, oh, that first Green Lantern movie? Fuck that shit. We're going to real shit now. So, there it is. That's what that's just what I think of it. Like you said, feel free to comment. I have a feeling that a lot of people are not going to agree. A lot of people are going to go to the mat. A lot of people are going to call me a lot of stuff. And again, you're very well within your rights to like things that are bad. Ultimately, Green Lantern deserved a much better movie than this. And if you're honest with yourself, you'll agree and not settle. Who knows, maybe they can get it right with the Green Lantern Corps sequel. I don't know, but better luck next time.